So that's all coming on the big show today here in Montreal. Joining me is Ruby Roy, who is one of the top people here in Montreal, and you know everything about it, don't you?
I do.
You're ever so smart. I really like that because we've just been driving here today and every building tells a story, and that's the great thing about this city. On every corner there's something, whether it be as bland as the lampposts, which have got a story, or the remarkable buildings.
Absolutely. It's a very unusual and diverse city. It's North America's only functionally bilingual city. It's not like any other city in Canada or even in the province of Quebec for many, many reasons. And three things that probably define what the city is Old Montreal. The Olympic Stadium and probably one of our landmarks, St. Joseph's Oratory. The square that we're standing in, Place d'Armes, which means the place of arms, which was actually a skirmish. It was two Indians, a tree, and a dog, but nonetheless, it was a little skirmish. And this square actually has all of the buildings that date back from Montreal's architectural history. And because we're the second oldest city in the country, we have a lot of firsts. So we have Notre Dame Basilica, which is the first parish church. We've got the Bank of Montreal in the square, which is the first bank in Canada. The oldest stone structure, which belongs to the Sulpician priests. We've got the red stone, Scottish stone building, which is the first building in Canada, or first high-rise building and first building with an elevator. In the middle of the square, the gentleman that looks like one of the three musketeers, standing with him are the first colonists on the first cemetery. And then a modern building that dates back to the 60s, which we call our first mistake, which is one of our banks.
And that's all literally within a few hundred yards of where we're stood.
Absolutely. It's a very walkable city. There's very few things that you can't walk to. Otherwise, we've got a great metro subway system in the underground city. So it's a year-round city because of this weatherproof underground city. And because in the winter we have a lot of sunny days. It's more sunny days than cloudy days. So even if it's a little bit colder, then it really is a beautiful city to walk around in.
Coming up on the program, we're going to go underground and find out about this miraculous city that just appears from nowhere. There's a life above ground and then there's life underground.
Absolutely.
And then we're going to pop to Quebec to find out what goes on there, which is just a beautiful, quaint little place, like a large village really. Very Parisian, very French. This is far more European, isn't it? This is far more modern with some American influences, certainly British influences.
Yes, very much. Montreal is a much more European city than it is only a French city. Of course, we have the French influence here, and in Old Montreal, certainly because of the influence of the Scots and the English, well, the British in general, you'll find that a lot of the buildings do date back more from the period that the British were here than the French, as you'll see in Quebec City.
I love America and I go there several times a year, and of course I've been all over Europe, and what I'm learning about Canada and Montreal, and particularly Quebec generally, is you seem quite classy. There's none of this rushing around the streets with cups of coffee in your hand.
No, certainly not here. We take our time, we sit down and have our breakfast, we acknowledge people in the streets, so we look at people in the streets, we smile, and then we walk away, and if he's really good looking, then we keep smiling.
It's a bit peculiar because if somebody looks at you in the street in London or in the Midlands or maybe even in Scotland, you're tempted to kind of call the police in case they're after you.
Yeah, but that doesn't happen here. This is a normal thing for us to acknowledge people in the streets.
Okay then, so coming up on the show, we're going to go underground, we're going to go above ground, and we'll start finding out about things like the lampposts, because they tell a story. Montreal's a city of several areas, and these areas are defined by culture and defined by street names and the lampposts, because they change in each area, don't they?
That's right. Montreal is an island which is made up of, let's say, 29 neighborhoods, and each one has its own personality and characteristic, and neighborhoods that are known for things actually have their own lampposts. So in Old Montreal, for example, they're gas lamps. In Chinatown, they look like the dragon in the International Quarter, which is known for design, and it looks like design. When we get into Little Italy, the base is made of marble, and so on.
And of course, culture is the big word here. You have more art per square inch than probably anywhere else in the world.
Yep, we are the province that spends the most on the arts. Arts are very important to us. We have a law called the 1% law, which says that anything that's built, renovated, or constructed, 1% of the construction budget has to go to a work of art in a public place. So you'll find them underground, on the streets, in front of buildings. Some are very easy things to interpret, others not so easy, and they're all actually on the City of Montreal's website, so very much encouraged.
And you're world renowned for your Montreal Comedy Festival. We'll talk about that later. And of course, the Jazz Festival. Why do you think they care so much about the different arts?
In general, it's kind of always been like this in Montreal. We have, a youthful population, and people who are not professional artists are actually involved in the arts. To give you an example, if you're an amateur dancer and you need a place to practice, the city actually owns buildings. There are public buildings which you can rent for about $9 or $10 an hour to practice. So the arts are very much encouraged. In September, we have the Week of Culture, where the entire city is opened up, and amateur artists who want to display their paintings or works or theatrical pieces can do it. So it's very much encouraged in the city.
Well, Ruby Roy is the big showbiz lady here in Montreal. She knows everything about everything, and we're going to be back talking to you in a bit. Thanks so much for talking to us. We're going to go back to Quebec now, a place that I travelled to just a few days ago on the train. It took about 3 hours. Not the fastest train in the world, but it's a beautiful journey. And the weather this time of year, well, we're quite lucky because it's sunny today. Who can believe that?
It's beautiful and sunny. It's actually a perfect fall day, but it's about 15 degrees, so...
And when I went to Quebec, the first thing I went to see is the beautiful Waterfall, which is just above the St. Lawrence River. And I got to speak to a lovely lady called Nicole.